Hello and welcome back to Courtside. I'm Andrew Cohen, joined alongside here by Mike Randall, Sam Posman. How you guys doing today?
Doing better than last time.
I am too. I'm just so happy the playoffs are done. That was probably the most mentally exhausting playoff run I've ever experienced.
It sucks when your team's good, right?
It's terrible.
Oh, yeah, it's so stressful.
Oh
yeah,
my
I mean,
God, it's so stressful. It's not enjoyable at all.
And when everything's at game 7 that shouldn't have gone to 7, oh my God. I'm just happy it's over.
You lose, it's all on your team. That's the worst, dude. It's the worst.
But the offseason is here. The best professional sports offseason is the NBA. And it's here. We had the draft last week. Free agency, I think teams can start talking to players, quote, legally on Thursday, because it's crazy that no teams have been talking to players yet. And yet we have all these rumors. It's kind of funny. But the big stuff going on, of course, has been all the Kyrie Irving stuff coming out of Brooklyn. I'm still convinced he wants out, but he opted in because $36 million is better than $6 million. What do you guys make of the Kyrie stuff?
I mean, I had a great 8-hour segment on Monday where I really thought he was going to be a Laker, and I was really excited about it. And then because he's different than the rest of us, he operates on a higher plane of mental processing.
Of course.
Right. What was the quote? It was like, those who dare to be different lead us into the future. With that, I'm opting in.
Yep.
I mean, it's pretty clear that 95% of the population wouldn't have taken the $30 extra million. Most of us would have opted out and taken the pay cut. But he was daring and brave enough to say, no, I want the money. And so he's back in Brooklyn, where they are suddenly, I think, the second odds-on favorite to win the title again, despite being swept this year. So I will keep talking about Kyrie, but I don't really care. I was just sad he's not a Laker. I really miss watching him and LeBron. Kyrie, come home, please.
I don't have much to say. It was a rather methodic end to the whole saga. Now, if it's over, that's a different story. But I'm sad that KD is now just going to continue to have his wagon hitched to the least reliable athlete of the last 25 years.
Okay. The thing, and Mike brought it up, where all of a sudden they're title favorites essentially. Why? I get they have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. They have an incredible amount of talent. The team that just got swept in the first round of the playoffs, the only things they have coming down the pike are Ben Simmons and Joe Harris. Is that going to take you from getting swept in the first round to title favorites? You're losing Bruce Brown, who played really well for you. I'd imagine they're losing Bruce Brown. And so, to me, that doesn't take you from swept in the first round to title favorites. Now, the Boston Celtics, if you turn back the clock, they got gentlemen swept by the Nets. They made the finals the next year. But it wasn't just, they got a couple guys. It's sure, they got Jalen Brown back from injury, but it's they shipped out Kemba Walker for Al Horford. They bought into Marcus Smart and Rob Williams. They had all the internal development, new head coach. So much changed from that year to the next. And I just don't think that enough will change in Brooklyn for them to all of a sudden be title favorites. They lost in the second round and they got swept. They're not title favorites.
I disagree with them being favorites. Where I would push back is the insinuation that they couldn't at some point they're going to be contenders. I don't think favorites. I think there's tiers for this, right? But it's entirely plausible they get to the favorite tier at some point in the season. The fact of the matter, they still have Kevin Durant. I know he struggled one time ever in the playoffs. Happened to be recently, so we're going to harp all over it, but he's still Kevin bleeping Durant, right? And then we're going to do the whole if Ben Simmons plays and all that. But if he actually does, he's maybe the most versatile, best defender in the league, or he's up there when he was healthy. He was in that conversation. And he gives them something they didn't have, which is a switch all big on defense. That was a major, major weakness. You want to have Nick Claxton switching out onto Jason Tatum or Jalen Brown or whoever this time would be Ben Simmons. That's a big shift. And the Joe Harris can shoot the ball, whether or not he will in the playoffs or not, we'll see. But it's not completely unfeasible that they end up back in the title picture. But I agree at this point in time, considering what we just saw and the question marks surrounding two of their three best players, to have them above Milwaukee, who I cannot fathom why they're not the favorites. Like I think they steamroll the rest of the competition if Middleton's. I think the Boston series tight if Middleton's healthy, but they win it. And I think they just roll everyone else over. Golden State had nothing matchup-wise for Milwaukee. So how a healthy Milwaukee team is not the odds-on favorite, I can't figure out. The fact that they're behind Brooklyn, who they match up with incredibly well, and they have more reliable players, I don't. So it's a weird spot in the offseason, but
they beat Brooklyn the year before, and that's the best Brooklyn has ever been in this iteration of the team. Like,
yep.
The Celtics are still better than Brooklyn. I think Miami's going to do something this offseason. They'll be better than Brooklyn. Philly, yeah, they're Philly.
I'm never trusting.
I can't trust.
Philly's a second round team.
I can't trust Philly either. But like the Nets are, when all things shake out, 4th or 5th seed in the East. That's fine. It's cute. But like when you have Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, you're expecting a lot more, and it speaks to Kyrie way more than it does Kevin Durant. Like that's the like, and you mentioned it. Like Kevin Durant is still, I look at how he played in the playoffs this year, and it's like, okay, yeah, he's still Kevin Durant. Like, let's not get stupid.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Sam? I'm just happy you guys have come off the Kevin Durant slander train. That just brings me joy. But no,
he still doesn't have a championship. No, I'm not.
I legitimately think the Vegas odds aren't indicative of the odds makers thinking that the Nets are that good, though. Like, there's a reason why the Lakers have the same title odds as Memphis does, and one of them was a 2 seed, and one of them was probably the biggest disappointment of a team of the last 25 years.
Yeah, but the Lakers have the 2 best players of those 2 teams. That's not the most ridiculous thing at this point in the offseason to have those. Memphis is not winning a title. Like they're not. They're feisty. Right? They're not built to or have the top and talent to win a title. So to have them with similar odds, maybe the Lakers' odds are a little high, but they still do have 2 of the better players on the planet when they're healthy. So the odds can be weird as we're talking about with Brooklyn, but let's not jump all over the Memphis hype train now. Like they're a cute second team still.
Well, the Lakers are a 0-round team. So
the Lakers are winning the championship.
I'm talking about last year.
Man, it must be nice to live in the dream world that you live in, Mike.
Amen.
It's not stressful. Speaking of dream world, remember when we convinced ourselves that Jason Tatum was a top 5 player in this league?
I never convinced myself of that.
I'm not talking to you, Michael.
Before the finals started, this season, he was a top 5 player in the NBA. He was. Not in the finals. I mean, not in the finals, but name five guys that you would take their season this year over Jason Tatum. I'm not saying he's a top 5 player. That's what I'm saying, though. It's like when you get to the finals and you're looking at his season compared to everyone else, it's like, okay, yeah, like, because it's so close between so many of those guys. You could talk yourself into it based off of who's been having the best day recently.
I think LeBron, Durant, Giannis, and Luka Doncic are in a class of their own, and then you can make the argument for Jokic and Jason Tatum.
So that's the thing. Is it if you're talking about who had the better year?
Yeah,
totally different argument than right now in time do you think is actually the better basketball player?
But that's why I don't think it was crazy, 3-4 weeks ago to be like, oh, Jason Tatum's a top 5 player in the NBA, because at the time, like, narratives, that's where, like, you're at the point in the season where he's still playing and most guys aren't. Like, it wasn't outrageous to think that.
I love a nice narrative.
I thought it was slightly outrageous.
Maybe slightly outrageous.
I didn't want to harp on the parade, though, or hamper the parade or whatever. So
it is rain on the parade.
Shut up, Sam. He's still like the 4th best 3 at most in the league. So I don't know how you can be the top 5 player if you're the 4th best player at your position when everybody's healthy.
Whoa, wait. I want to hear this. What's your list? Just give me 1 through 3.
For threes? So small forward?
Yeah.
So I'm classifying LeBron and KD as small forwards, even though one's sometimes a point guard, sometimes a center, the other sometimes a power forward. But wings, let's go wings. LeBron, KD, Kawhi are still better than Jason Tatum if they're healthy. That's not arguable. It's just
not at all. Not at all. It's not an argument.
No.
Okay.
Oh yeah, shit. That's three. Okay. Yeah, I got no problems with it.
Yeah, no, he's probably the fourth. Like that's a respectable
Yeah.
slot.
It sounded so disrespectful, and then I heard it, and I was like, "Oh, that's well thought out."
Yeah,
I mean, those
Kudos,
guys have also done it now for, in the case of LeBron and KD, 10, 15 years in Kawhi. Like they're proven guys in the league. Jason Tatum's not totally proven. Like that's what it comes down to.
That's why. Yeah, absolutely. Those are arguably the three. Not arguably, those are three of the five best players of this generation.
Exactly.
So because 24-year-old Tatum's just tick behind him right now, it's not a big deal. It's just the top five players are a little presumptuous. You can argue Luka should not be up there either. Like I'm fine hearing that too. I might have him at 5, might have him at 6, but the people are like, Luka's a top 3 player right now. I don't know.
I think the top 5 is clear, just for fun. I'm gonna list mine for fun. Little post-season top 5. Never heard anyone ever likes a nice ranking list. No particular order. I have NBA champion Finals MVP Stephen Curry. I have the love child of LeBron James and Larry Bird and Luka Doncic. I have the king in LeBron James. I have the Longhorn legend in Kevin Durant. I have the Greek freak in Giannis, and I think that's fine.
Yeah, I would have the same group, I think.
I think I would.
Yep.
No, I would still take Tatum over Luka.
I was gonna say, does that mean Luka's better than Tatum?
I would still take Tatum over Luka, but like if I'm trying to like analyze their numbers, I mean, yeah, Luka has better numbers.
That's not what we're doing. Who's the better player?
Jason Tatum.
So is Jason Tatum top 5?
No. My top. All right, in no particular order. In no particular order. LeBron, KD, Giannis, Steph, like Jokic or Embiid.
That was a very nice top out, Mr. Cohen.
He just does not want to put Luka in there.
I would also put Kawhi Leonard over Luka if healthy.
Hey, Luka looks good. He's showing a arm
healthy,
definition.
Yeah, Kawhi Leonard's that.
But like I'm saying that because like when we were talking about top 5 players for the past year, we basically don't consider Kawhi Leonard because like he's not playing, so let's for the sake of the argument, he can't do anything to help or hurt himself.
Have we seen the Luka Doncic summer update pictures?
Yes.
Man looks needy and not in the Zion way.
That's a great sign.
No, I love it.
It's a great sign for them.
I want to witness greatness next year. So
actually, I think we weren't thinking about going this way, but I think a little Mavs talk we could sprinkle in here while we're on the Luka Doncic topic. So it sounds like Brunson's going to head to the Knicks. They're going to offer him probably 4 years, $100 million. He gets to go play for his dad, who's an assistant there.
Yep.
What do you guys think of that for New York? What do you guys think of that for where does Dallas go from there? That's a pretty big loss if they let him walk for nothing. I also little mixed feelings with it for New York. So what do you guys think?
Bill Simmons.
Go ahead.
Bill Simmons asked the question. He said, of all the sweepstakes that we've seen in free agency, like the LeBron sweepstakes, the Kevin Durant sweepstakes, are the Jalen Brunson sweepstakes the worst sweepstakes that we've ever witnessed? And that's not a knock on Jalen Brunson.
No, yeah, absolutely.
It's
that's the free agent we're trying to talk ourselves into as being like
the bidding wars.
The
offseason bidding wars for Jalen Brunson. Like, come on, man. He averaged 16 points a game.
Yeah, no, now. I think the one thing if he does end up signing that contract is 4 years, 25 is not a terrible contract for the Knicks. That's a contract you could pretty easily move if you really wanted to down the road. And he's a good player, good, smart player.
He's young.
The Knicks need guys like that. I think he'll fit in great there. Now, for the Mavs' perspective, it hurts because he's your secondary scorer outside of Luka. And so you got Christian Wood, which is nice, but it still feels like they're a few pieces away from being a legit title threat. And they need at least one other big, 20-plus points per game scorer consistently, I feel like.
So what I think hurts the most for Dallas is that obviously losing Brunson's not great. He averaged 22 in the playoffs, I think. He was really
good in the playoffs.
He was great in the playoffs. The thing about Dallas that was getting me excited as a guy who likes to watch Luka play, especially as we get deeper into the postseason, is it was unlikely I don't think they're going to be able to get another A-list star or even a B plus guy. Like, I don't think Bradley Beal is going to get sent to Dallas anytime soon, right? So it was how many of these like B minus players can you stack on this roster where maybe you don't consistently get 20 points from one guy every night, but one of them can kind of trade off. And the big additions were going to be Christian Wood, but Tim Hardaway Jr. Has been great for them the last couple of years. He's played really well in the playoffs. I know they had lost to LA the previous couple of years, but in those series, Hardaway was their clear second best player, and I thought looked really good. So the idea of having Luka and Brunson, who Brunson's not just another guy who can score, he's another guy, he's a secondary playmaker.
Yeah.
So he can take Luka off the ball. I think a big thing for Luka is going to be learning how to conserve energy towards the latter part of games and series. We talked about that with Tatum a little bit last podcast too, how these young guys put in so much work early in the postseason that they can kind of fade themselves out. Brunson was the exact type of guy that you can run the offense through a little bit. And then if you add another spark plug like Hardaway, who isn't just a guy who's going to stand on the perimeter and jack up shots, but can go get his own and can have these little 4, 5 point, 7 point bursts, that addition, the Wood addition, and Brunson with Luka and that dynamic having developed for another year, that potentially could put them in the title picture. Now, I think the West is going to get tougher, so maybe not. But depending on how things break, I thought that was a pretty significant improvement, bringing back Wood, who I think is a 19, 20-point guy, and Hardaway, who's a 17 or 18-point guy, with Brunson to kind of facilitate a second aspect of the offense when Luka's off ball or on the bench. So losing that is almost like going back to square one a couple of years ago where they were losing to the Clippers, and it was all Luka all the time. Because Hardaway's not generating offense for anybody. He can get his own shot, go on a little burst, but he's not going to run fluid offense through. So I think it's a big loss. I would have overpaid for Jalen Brunson because he is the type of guy you can always move. Someone's always going to be in the Jalen Brunson market, not unless he's getting paid $50 million, which he's never going to, right? So I thought, to the extent that they were thinking about contention next year, it's a pretty crippling loss because I don't think there's a replacement out there for him, especially not in this offseason.
No. Yeah, like Dinwiddie would have to do some of that. But the other thing I look at with Dinwiddie is he got there and he shot like 40% from three. He's like a career like 30% three-point shooter.
Yeah.
Like that. So like he overperformed. They have money tied up into like Davis Bertans and like, I don't know. Like I think they have a lot of guys who you'd want on your team as like a sixth man at best, and they're all like key guys, and that's the issue. And like Luka's great enough offensively to kind of mask those weaknesses a lot of the time, but you get into a playoff series against really good teams, and it's not going to work out consistently like that.
They're just too reliant on catch and shoot threes.
Yeah,
doesn't matter how open the looks get, because the Golden State series, Luka generated the most open looks from three I've seen any player generate aside from LeBron. We're talking empty gym practice shots. And you got guys, Reggie Bullock was up and down all postseason. You got guys like that going 0 for 11 on catch and shoots where it's like, dude, it's just you in the hoop.
Yeah.
Like no one's running at you. There's no hand in your face. Just shoot the ball. And they live and die by the three. They literally died by the three. So losing Brunson, who's another guy that can get intermediate offense or offense at the rim. We talked about how the Jalen Brunson post offense is the most unheralded, effective offense in the sport. I think it's pretty devastating. And I don't think it moves the needle for New York too much other than getting a decent floor general who could potentially help develop your young guys to the extent that you haven't. You don't draft people anymore. So congratulations, New York. You now have a logjam of 30-year-old point guards with Jalen Brunson. They're trying to figure it out.
By the way, I love that the Knicks had to put out another statement where it's like, just be patient, guys. Don't worry. Like, it's all going to be fine. It's all going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. Knicks fans, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Am I sorry? No, I am. Because, like, the cliche that, like, the league is better when the Knicks are good. Like, it's true because the Knicks get to the playoffs.
It is. Like, it's more
exciting. It's New York. Like, they could be a play-in team by adding Jalen Brunson. They might get there. They might get there this year. Maybe.
Randall's not on a contract year anymore, so he's not going to be good again.
They should throw the max at Ayton.
Why not?
Yeah, what do you make of the Ayton stuff?
I just want one team to throw the max at him just so Phoenix has to begrudgingly match it legally. I think that'd be hilarious.
He's
That would
gonna
be
end,
awesome.
And then he stays in Phoenix and just says F you to Sarver. And then everyone's just unhappy except for
Yeah,
Ayton
so-
because he caused drama.
I feel like he's gonna end up back. I feel like he's gonna end up back in Phoenix. But then every time I think that, I think about his relationship with Monty Williams, which apparently was not good this year. I think Phoenix is at a real crossroads because the owners are so cheap. And so it's all of a sudden like, okay, you're already paying Chris Paul, you're already paying Devin Booker. They're really reluctant to pay Ayton. What does it mean for Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, guys like that? Like,
yep.
I wonder if they consider trading Cam Johnson. Like, because
No, they may have to. They're not
like,
going to pay.
They're not going to pay. The thing is, they don't have to. They just don't want to pay him, so they're going to. Like, I wonder if something like that's in the works for them too. I don't know.
I think it's. Yeah, I don't know. The Ayton thing's it's interesting, but I'm almost with Sam where it's kind of comical to me because I don't think he's a needle mover for anybody. Like, people are talking about him going to Dallas, and I was like, yeah, that's fine. Like, it'll improve them, sure, but I don't think he's the type of guy that you can center any significant part of a championship team around. Partially because of the way he plays, but also like he just disappears. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he got babied by Giannis last year. We're not going to really hold that against him, but just like it feels like I remember watching him play the Lakers in the first round last year, and there were a couple games where he came out just determined and would have like 20 games all over the Lakers. And then I think it was game 2, Anthony Davis in that series just decided he was taking it over and dropped like back-to-back 35-point games, and Ayton had looked like a puppy.
Yeah.
Then AD gets hurt, and he's right back to being a beast. And it's like, dude, you can't just come up and down mentally and engagement-wise. I think that's why Monty Williams, from what I heard about the confrontation at the end of Game 7, was Monty Williams straight up told him to his face that you quit on the team and you're being a soft. And Ayton threw a hissy fit at him, and now they don't have a relationship. So I thought maybe him going to Detroit would be decent. It gives Cade Cunningham a lob threat, a dump down guy. He can anchor a decent defense, right? He's just going to be a body at the rim. He's not a great shot blocker, but they just drafted Jalen Duran, who I think is a pretty decent prospect as a rim runner. So I don't think they're going to look into him anymore. So, I mean, the Hawks have Capella. I know they've been looking to make a move. So he's kind of running out of places to go. Phoenix doesn't want to pay him. So it's just kind of an ugly situation. But I'm with you, Andrew. I think more than likely ends up staying. And that could potentially blow up what I think is the more important portion of the Suns' core, which is their D and 3 wings.
Yep.
And Chris Paul. So I've kind of written the Suns off. I don't even give them a second thought at this point. I think they're a first or second round team from here on out.
I agree.
The Ayton thing is at least
the thing with Ayton for me is every year there's a new center that we realize because they cannot guard on the perimeter, they get played off the court in the playoffs. And it was Montrezl Harrell, and then it was Rudy. And now, I mean, when Dallas went 5 out, like there was nothing that Ayton could do. It was embarrassing. So he's a guy that you have to give a max to just because, like, it's kind of similar to Bradley Beal, where it's like the Wizards are like, yeah, we have to pay him. Like, we know it's probably not the right economic move, but like you just
whoa. Come on, please?
I'm not putting them the same. I'm not putting them this. They're not equitable at all. But it's a similar
pay
contract.
Bradley Beal economically can go to hell. He's a 30-point guy.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
I know.
But you pay Bradley Beal. You don't.
I know you have to. You've no choice but to pay Bradley Beal. You have to pay Deandre Ayton, but it feels wrong. It feels like one of those just poison pill contracts where he's not going to be able to play in a playoff series in 2 years' time. It's going to be a bad contract. I don't know. Unless him and Bam Adebayo need to go to motivation to play basketball camp, and where they just learn to be like the apex of themselves day in and day out, and not like take 3 games off in a row. And then be like, wait a minute.
Bam Adebayo has to bottle up whatever he has mentally going for him when he faces Daniel Tice. That's what he has to be at all times. He can't be what he was against Rob Williams.
Bam Adebayo just needs to play Jaylen Brown's pre-game predictions from that Heat series on repeat all offseason. Every single game, Jaylen Brown's like, this is the Bam Adebayo
No,
game.
Jalen Rose, you mean?
Jalen Rose.
Yeah.
In every game,
It was
not the
incredible.
Bam Adebayo game. Except for the one.
It was for the Celtics.
Except for the one where the best center on the court was hurt. And then it was like, oh, well, now you can eat on the G League guys. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
He's not that. He's just not.
But like,
So
I was gonna say quickly though, like, because we talk like when you're watching the, I was thinking back to the Eastern Conference Finals where it's like Bam Adebayo and Rob Williams. Both those guys can guard on the perimeter. That's why they're in consideration for Defensive Player of the Year in all defensive teams. And it's just kind of the way the league feels like it's going. Where if you have a big guy that can both rim protect and defend the perimeter, it's a really, really key thing to have.
Oh, it's huge. It's almost essential.
Yeah,
it's the modern center.
Exactly. Yep.
So speaking of somewhat archaic but highly priced centers, what do we do with Rudy Gobert this offseason, fellas?
He is going to end up going to nowhere besides the Utah Jazz. The only team that has any interest in him is, I think, Chicago. And I think they had like a press conference recently where the GM or ownership or somebody like high-ranking the organization was talking about continuity for next year and really wanting to maintain that. I can't imagine you say that and then go trade Vooch and Patrick Williams for Rudy Gobert. So if they don't want him, then what other team is interested in Rudy Gobert? I don't see one.
Also, this might be premature, but in a playoff series, give me Patrick Williams over Rudy Gobert 10 times out of 10.
We'll see how that ages.
We'll
see. But I mean,
Big Patrick Williams guy.
Hold on.
Too,
so if Rudy's going to stay in Utah, according to you guys, that makes them contenders, right?
No. So
hold on. So they can trade Donovan Mitchell. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this. We're talking about Jalen Brunson. I forgot. That's actually a great move for the Knicks. That's a great move for the Knicks. They're basically getting Donovan Mitchell, right? Jalen Brunson with a higher usage rate. He'll get that in New York. He'll turn into Donovan Mitchell. No problem. So the Jazz will be contenders. The Knicks get their sort of Donovan Mitchell because just anybody can score 25 points in an NBA game if they get the usage rate for it.
Richard can.
Now, I want to be clear on something. What I was saying at that time was that if the Jazz traded Donovan Mitchell with what they got back for Donovan Mitchell, plus whatever little free agency moves they could make, they would more likely to finish the higher seed than if they traded Gobert and tried to take whatever they got for him with Donovan Mitchell and make a run. That's what I was trying to say.
I will add something to that. If Rudy Gobert is on your team, the expectation is that your team contending for a deep playoff run or finals appearance. If Donovan Mitchell is your best player and he's on your team, it's almost like, okay, we have the star guy that we can build around. It might take a year or two, but we have to get guys around him. Whereas Rudy Gobert is more of like, he's the final piece to the puzzle.
Because no losing team wants to have Rudy Gobert on them.
Exactly.
That's the
Orlando
Magic don't want him.
He's going to get you stupid wins, but not actually win you anything when it matters, which just is counterproductive to draft lottery and actually winning.
And he costs a lot of money.
I was just repeating what I heard you guys say. I can't jump in your heads. I can't interpret it. The Jalen Brunson with a higher usage rate may have been.
I can't defend that one from Sam.
I've heard.
I can't defend that one
for a guy who is like a couple years removed from averaging 35 in the playoff run.
In a loss.
I really see he won that.
Or do we want to keep doing the in a
loss?
We're
not doing this again. We're not doing this again.
I'm being sarcastic.
Right, so I got one thing on Gobert. So it's no longer going to happen. I think there was a 1 point slight rumblings about it that there may be interest or someone had floated the idea. I wouldn't hate him in Dallas. Now, hear me out on Dallas. So it's not going to work now. You have Christian Wood. Now, were you able to make it work with Christian Wood? I actually like that more. But if Christian Wood's out of the picture, let's say he's out of the picture. Now, I don't think Dallas has an atrocious small ball lineup. I thought the minutes in the Golden State series when they were matching small ball, they made out okay. They didn't do great, but Draymond's not going to punish you down low. What actually really killed them was freaking Looney was just dropping 20-20s on them. And that is pure size. Now, the thing with Rudy Gobert is Dallas has a lot of really good perimeter defenders. That was one of their strengths. Jason Kidd did a great job scheming that up. Rudy, I think, really completes what could be potentially the best defensive team in the league, especially over the course of the regular season. And then, while I agree with you, Sam, that you can't solely rely on a center who can't move his feet and play defense, Rudy is so good at defending the paint. And then you can mix and match minutes in small ball, especially if that's a strength of yours, which it certainly was for Dallas. I mean, they made the conference finals with pure small ball. That I think it takes their defense over the top when he's on the court. They can still get away with it off the court. So you're not completely reliant on having him out there at crunch time. That's important because that's the issues that Utah would run into. And then the fact of the matter is, that year when he got really played off the court and it was a disaster, the 2 years it's happened to, they played teams that were uniquely positioned to do so. Had they played Golden State this year with Rudy Gobert, he never gets played off the court because Draymond is so bad on offense. He's so bad, he can Robert Williams played the whole series on one knee. It wasn't like you switching on and locking people up, right? So I think that the rim protector piece is something Dallas is still missing. We'll see how Wood does. He's okay on defense. I don't think he's great. But I think Rudy gets a little bit of a bad rap offensively. I'm not saying he's Akeem Olajuwon, but his offense has progressed a little bit. Part of the tension in Utah, from what I've heard, like an NBA insider, I've seen NBA insiders say is that part of the tension is that Rudy feels like his offensive game is progressing and that his relationship with Donovan is now stunting his growth on offense because Donovan just won't pass him the ball.
It's hilarious.
Hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
But Luka Doncic, with a credible lob threat, a 7'1" guy who can finish around the hoop. He's not going to start knocking down mid-range jump shots, but I don't think he stalls the offense completely because of how unique an offensive piece Luka is. I then think he potentially is the last piece of the puzzle in a major freaking, like the glue, the major piece of the puzzle to what could be the best defense in the league. And they're not beholden to him because of their ability to play small with Luka and Kleber or Powell. I thought Kleber's a decent small ball five. The problem is when you bring in bigger people. So I'm about a week late with this or 2 weeks late with this. This is what I had kind of been thinking as we headed into the offseason now with the Wood addition. I really like that for Dallas. But I had been thinking that were there a team out there that was in contention looking for that final piece and to the extent that Rudy could play it without hamstringing that team to his lack of ability to defend on the perimeter, I thought Dallas would be a really good fit. And I thought if they were going to go get a second star for Luka, they don't need it to be an offensive guy because Luka can generate that no problem. I thought Rudy was a good fit. So it's not going to happen now, more like vast majority more than likely, but even with Wood, I don't think it's a terrible fit, but I definitely thought it was a decent fit earlier. So I think that's the type of team that, not that there's many of them, that Rudy could still fit into. I don't think he's a complete washout in the playoffs because he struggled basically in one half against the Clippers. Now, he wasn't great the whole series, but there's still room for him in the league for a team like Dallas that they could use him.
Mike, I have a would you rather for you.
Okay, let me hear it.
Would you rather Rupert for $41 million or Mo Bamba and Otto Porter Jr. for $25?
I don't want $25 million on Mo Bamba and Otto Porter Jr.
Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is like, I've participated in the trash Rudy Gobert party plenty. I'm not going to excuse myself from that. And I will continue to, because who doesn't like crapping on annoying Frenchmen who don't get vaccinated, or don't take
Napoleon.
Don't take COVID seriously. I do think he's still a very good player, and I think increasingly we're starting to see somewhat of a return to reliance on big men to an extent, right? That hence why Ayton, I don't think, fits that title picture. But guys who are so good at one thing that when they're able to do that thing can still make a real impact. Robert Williams on one knee had an impact in that series, and he wasn't really able to move around. So there's still room for that. You just can't be so reliant on him that you're playing him with 2 minutes left when the other team's going small ball. So you have to find teams that can miss and match. Phoenix, I think, is more beholden to Ayton, hence the issue.
I got no problems there.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the Jazz, we talked about Gobert. Donovan Mitchell. Now, I think at this point, I think the Jazz are just going to run it back. They're going to say, hey, we got a new coach. Let's see it. But the big rumor for Donovan Mitchell has been Miami. How plausible do you think that would be? And if at all plausible, what do you think Miami would have to give up? If you were Utah, what would Miami have to give up for you to part ways with Donovan Mitchell?
If I was Utah, I'm starting with Bam Adebayo.
Agreed.
Now, as someone who just roots for good basketball and good fits, I would hope. I think, by the way, I think that is an awesome fit. I think this has been brought up maybe off air before, but that's almost exactly what Miami needs. I think you could probably get away with a package centered around Hero, maybe another couple of the younger guys or the role players that are good at what they do, and then just pretty much every draft pick you have, probably starting at 3 first rounds, maybe a couple seconds. I do think that could potentially get it done. I would start it with Bam if I'm Utah, and I would go pretty hard at trying to get them to give me Bam, but I wouldn't say Bam's an end-all, be-all with Miami, because I still think they offer one of the better packages when you look around the league in terms of young players to draft assets.
Let's be honest, it's Danny Ainge. He'll do it for 2 first-rounders, and he'll be happy.
What? It's Danny Ainge. He won't
loves
make the
some
trade.
draft picks.
No. This is Danny Ainge. He won't make the trade. Danny Ainge, to get this trade done, would need Bam. He would need Tyler Hero. He would need Strus. He would need 3 first-round picks and then 3 pick swaps. So like the next 6 years, he has all of the Miami draft picks. Especially, you have to keep in mind, it's Pat Riley that he would be talking to. There is no way that he is giving up Donovan Mitchell for anything less than the entire team besides Jimmy Butler.
I would like to think that he would also include a coach swap into the trade negotiations.
Sam, would you trade if you're Utah and you're in the position you're in right now, and you could trade Donovan for Spo?
Ooh, I like this.
What would you do?
I wouldn't do it because no coach is trying to coach Rudy Gobert, and they don't even have Joe Ingles.
This reminds me of one of my favorite sports talk discussions from the mid-2010s when the Celtics were going on their runs. Who would you rather have, Brad Stevens or Giannis?
What made me think of
was the talk. It's always the player. It is always the player, especially in the NBA. Especially in the NBA.
Andrew, speaking of the Boston Celtics,
yes.
Can I list you 6 fun free agent signings and you give me a rating of how happy you would be if they signed them on a scale of 0 to 10?
Sure.
Number 1, Mohamed Bamba. Good backup to Rob. Yes, he's not as smart. He doesn't play as well on the perimeter, but he's a good 6. He replaces the Tice minutes.
Sam, can I get in here and just grade how good a move I think it is?
Yeah, definitely.
Mo Bamba.
By the way, I'm at like a 2.
I'm at like a 3 or
like
I'm at
like
3 or 4.
Like, yeah, make no mistake, I would love for Mo Bamba to go somewhere and ball out. It's just not with the Celtics. He doesn't fit what we want to do. He's not good enough at protecting the rim. He can't switch on defense. Like he's got to be in a team that's not contending, that's just going to play him all the minutes in the world so he can develop.
Okay, next guy, he's my perfect signing for us. Andrew, I think you're going to give him a 10 out of 10, and I hope I'm not wrong. Tyus Jones. He takes the Pritchard minutes.
Ooh.
I'll give you 7.
I was going to say like 6 or 7. I think he's the issue. I don't think he fits in because you have Smart and Derek White that are going to play the playmaker role when they're on the court. Like I like Tyus Jones. He's a good ball handler and playmaker, but unless whoever it is a significant upgrade, and he also is Tyus Jones a good shooter? Like I don't think he's a good shooter either. So 6 or 7.
Mike, anything to add?
Yeah, since Andrew kind of said 6 or 7, then went a little negative. I think it gives you a little bit more playmaking punch off the bench. Derek White might play that role. Wasn't especially effective in that role. Doesn't shoot it great. So it's a little bit of a trickier fit because of the Derek White trade. That's what he was supposed to be for them. But their lack of playmaking was really evident in the finals. Just even a few minutes, 10, 15 minutes, where you can just kind of kickstart the offense, get some guys some good looks, get somebody in rhythm. I think any player that can do that helps. That's why I give it a 7. I don't think Tyus Jones is particularly special. I just think he plays a very poor man's Mike Conley's brand of basketball, which I thought, honestly, if I could take a player from around the league and drop him on the Celtics for you guys, that's not like a superstar. Yeah. It would be a Mike Conley type of player. And Tyus Jones plays that style of ball, so I think it would be a boost. But I think any player that can do that would be a boost. Hence giving it a
if the Celtics start moving around pieces and all of a sudden Derek White's not here next year, then yeah. But the issue is like the Celtics need shooting, and I just looked up. He shot well from 3 this year, but I don't think Tyus Jones is a sniper by any means.
Shot 40% in the playoffs.
Yeah, but like, he's not taking a ton of attempts a game either.
He did keep them in that series.
He did.
He drove the offense that kept them in that series. And Jaw dropped out, so he's not.
I like Tyus Jones. I'm not sure, and I think what he does fits. But I think the problem is then all of a sudden you have like 3 guys who do the same thing at different levels, and so who's next, Sam?
Take a swing down. He hasn't played in 2 years, but the last time we saw him play, he was good. It's a wings league. TJ Warren.
He hasn't played in 2 years.
Yeah, he hasn't played since the bubble, and oh boy, was he good in the bubble. You maybe get pennies on the dollar for him because of the injury worries, but it's been stress fractures in the foot, which isn't always like it's not just coming off an Achilles or something.
Stress fractures aren't great though.
Yeah,
no, they're not.
I would say like it depends on how they get him. Like if he's like a vet minimum, 10. Because they need some scoring punch off the bench, but I don't want that to be like the MLE they're giving out or anything like that. So I don't think he's good enough defensively. But I like that. That's a nice name.
Thank you. One of my favorite players, Jingle Jangle Joe Ingles.
Four?
Yeah, 4 or 5. Doesn't get me super excited. I don't think it. Yeah. He's not a bad player. So anytime you add a decent basketball player, that's fine. But I don't think he really moves the needle where you need to be moved.
Agreed. Yeah.
And he's old, unathletic, and hurt.
Coming off a torn ACL, right? So
Mike almost said White and then had to change it to hurt.
Hey.
Going back to Tyus Jones quickly, when John Morant was out in the playoffs, he was 16, 7, and 6. Nothing.
Yeah, no, Tyus Jones is a really good player. Like if you're bringing in Tyus Jones and you're trading Derek White somewhere, then yeah, all in like 10. But I think it'd be too redundant to bring him in. I think their other needs are a little bit more important.
Speaking of other needs, and I imagine we're talking about depth at the wing position, perhaps you take a step back, maybe put it in slow-mo with Kyle Anderson.
Kyle Anderson, 8 or 9. I think
that's a good fit.
It's a great, but he's also one of those guys where it's like he'll fit wherever he goes because he's a big wing that can defend and do a little bit of everything. But I would love that. I thought he would have been a good fit last year because Memphis was looking to move him, and they ultimately didn't. But I think that'd be a great fit.
What a nickname!
And it's one of the most perfect nicknames in sports.
Oh, it's awesome.
Because you watch him play and you're like, oh my God, I get it. Like immediately.
Yeah.
All right, that's my list.
So I have 3 more I'd like to add.
Okay.
Kyle Kuzma.
Is he a free agent?
Okay, so he's not free agent. This is TPE stuff.
No, 0. Don't do it to yourselves. Please trust me. Don't do it to yourselves.
I'm all aboard the Kuzma train.
Choo-choo.
Dude, Kuzma was bad at the Lakers because LeBron hated him.
Sam, shut up. Listen for 2 seconds. Guys, on the Wizards, on the baby Lakers, no expectations, no continuity on offense. Just gets to throw up shots, put up a little 18 points per game. He looks great. He's the epitome of the player who plays on a bad team that you think would translate over to a good one and is a disaster when you need him to play high-level basketball. Guys, the shots, he makes J.R. Smith look like a basketball genius. The shot selection is putrid. He's not actually that good of a shooter. I don't even want you to read me his stats. I don't care.
No, they're actually not that good.
Shots. He can't shoot. It's disastrous. And he's one of those guys, he's like Marcus Smart when he was still bad. He'll have one night where he gets his 16 points and shoots 4 of 8 from 3. And the next night he's like, oh, green light, baby. 0 for 11. Just trust me, don't get in the Kyle Kuzma business. Not if you want to win a championship. Watching a finals game in a high leverage moment when Kyle Kuzma touches the basketball does not get more stressful than that. I would literally rather have Dellavedova bringing the ball up the court again. Like, bring me back to that team before you bring me back to Kyle Kuzma.
He had 3 turnovers a game this year.
What?
Kuz?
3 turnovers a game this year. I didn't realize it was that bad.
Kuz?
Yeah.
Oh, he fit right in.
About what the usage rating is. God,
by the way, in terms, and I don't want to turn this into a whole like Celtics TPE discussion, but like he's like 7th on that list for me. I just knew that Mike was going to go off, so I had to bring it up. I actually do have 3 free agent names
horrible.
he didn't mention. Bruce Brown.
Bring him home.
Bring him home.
Bring Bruce Brown
That's
home.
a good fit.
Bring him home.
That's a really good fit.
That's one.
Andrew, we've been on Bruce Brown for a while now.
I've been on, yeah. Well, I mean, it's easy because he's from here, but like, great. He would be a fantastic fit.
He's that guy.
I would also throw in Otto Porter. I thought he would have been a good fit last year. Then he went. I was surprised he went vet minimum, but he wanted to win a ring. So he went to the Warriors. I would also throw in, and I know you're not a big fan of this, Sam, but he would be a fantastic fit. Nicholas Batum.
That's a really good fit for them. It is. Sam, he can do a little bit of everything. He can shoot, play enough defense, a little bit of playmaking. Like, the offense is not going to stall out with Nick Batum on the court.
Because I think one of the biggest needs that the Celtics have this offseason is finding someone, a wing off the bench, that can come in. They don't necessarily need to be an elite scorer. Like, they can find another middle bench scorer from another position. But getting someone who can come in and let the Jays sit on the bench for a bit and at least defend and play it within the offense, that's what they need. Because right now it's like Nesmith might be that guy. Because they really, like, Grant Williams playing triple big is the other guy. Like,
dude, they're legitimately crazy high on Hauser right now.
They are.
It's ridiculous. Like, even the athletic beat reporters are talking about how high they are on Hauser.
I haven't seen this amount of hype for a player who's played so little since Jarrett Stidham was the only quarterback in New England.
Yeah,
like that's
honestly,
like it's actually kind of comparable to that.
There's a lot of Hauser noise.
Love
some nice Sam representation. But my thing with Batum is, would you not rather have TJ Warren in that spot than Nick Batum?
Why not get both?
I have no problem with that. I just see Nick Batum as like Jabari Parker plus.
No. Because like Nick Batum he's a clear NBA player. He can defend, like as Mike was saying, he can do a little bit of everything. Like Jabari Parker was a reclamation project that other teams have tried. Right?
Yeah.
It was like, we're desperate. We couldn't get anyone on the buyout market because we're a 7 seed. Jabari Parker could be fun, and that's what they did. But like,
and I'm very likely underrating Batum just because of how terrible that Charlotte contract was.
Yeah.
And he's always going to be compared to that. But
yeah,
you get him on a more friendly deal. Like, I'm not going to complain about getting a nice modern wing.
Yeah, like if TJ Warren if TJ Warren's like a vet minimum, and then you want to get Batum on the mid-level exception, I think that'd be fantastic. The dream, I think I said this to you, the dream would be Cam Johnson. If the Suns all of a sudden tried to move him for any reason, that would be the dream. I don't know if it would happen or not.
TJ Warren averaged 27 in the bubble.
Oh,
I know it was good.
Bubble TJ Warren is one of like the 3 greatest scorers of all time.
I remember it was really good. I didn't remember it was that
good.
Oh my god.
He put him like 50 like 3 times.
53 against Philly, 39 against Mike's Lakers, 34 against Washington.
You mean NBA champions, the Los Angeles Lakers? Thank you, sir.
Sorry.
NBA
Speaking of my darling purple and gold, you guys ready?
As ready as I will be. As ready as
we're
I
not
can
going to be ready, but you might as well go.
Well, I mean, like, as much as I want to just come in swinging with fireworks, I admitted this to you guys earlier, and I'll do so on air because I do think it's relatively comical. So these 2 guys were talking about adding some segments, like whatever, for the episode. And I'm like, you know what I'll do? I'll do an episode segment called Mike Fixes the Lakers. So I pull up my NBA trade simulator. I pull up my free agent list, look at their cap situation. I'm like, I literally spent 4 or 5 minutes on it. And I'm like, this is way too hard. Like, I have no idea what to do. I'd have to have like a deep understanding of the intricacies of the NBA cap and trades and all this. They're a mess. Like, I so badly want to just come in here and start guns a-blazing. I mean, of course they're going to win the championship next year. Like, they're going to figure it out. All that, it'll work out for itself. I just can't figure out how. I don't know what to do with Russell Westbrook. He's the worst contract I've ever seen in sports. And, yeah, so that's not great. I think, in all seriousness, I do think a 3-team trade is potentially out there somewhere. Maybe the second greatest player of all time, who's one of the top 5 worst owners of all time, might be inclined to take him on in Charlotte.
I think he legitimately is.
I do too, because he actually thinks Russell Westbrook is himself, because Russell Westbrook, like, I think partially hates everyone he plays with and against. Mm-hmm. But MJ was good at basketball, even in Washington. And Russ is now bad at basketball. So that's an issue. But
who had the better Washington career, Russell Westbrook or Michael Jordan?
Russell Westbrook. He averaged a triple-double and took him to the playoffs.
That was kind of
That's what gave me hope.
The play-in.
Hope. He was great the last half of the season. And he comes to Washington. He comes to LA and he's like, yeah, I'm washed now. Sorry, guys. So that's a mess. We still have Taylor Horton-Tucker. That's not worth anything anymore. He'll drop his 40 points per game in the summer league and then suck.
Let me ask you something.
Back. That's a bright spot. Kendrick Nunn, Malik Monk. Those are some real building blocks right there if you want to be a 17-win team. What are you going to say, Andrew?
Well, I was just going to ask, like, I mean, you're bringing up all these names. They were there last year. You know, some of them were hurt, but like, how do they make a change? Because trying the same thing over and over again is the definition of insanity.
So I actually think Nunn's a boost. I was excited for him last year and he never played. That was disappointing. You have to just hope Anthony Davis likes basketball. By the way, you got to give this has been stored up for way too long.
All right.
So I will preface this by saying I am not a professional athlete. I am never anywhere close to a professional athlete. That being said, just as a logical human being who understands sports, I do get that professional athletes have off-season routines. When you're done playing basketball, you've been doing it for 9 months, you step away from the game. Work on your body a little bit, take some time off, and then eventually pick up the basketball game. Some of the greatest shooters ever have had routines where they don't touch a basketball for months in the offseason. Fine. They're some of the greatest shooters ever. Now, if I were, say, an all-star big man playing for the glamour franchise in the NBA, expected to take the reins from the greatest player of all time and lead the next wave of Laker greatness, were I that player, and were I to then shoot 18% from 3, not play in 55% of the season, and have one of the lowest jump shooting, advanced metric scores in NBA history, were I that guy, I'm basically describing Sam on the pickup court. Were I that man?
So uncalled for.
It's just burning me up. Like yourself just burning. Anyway, were I this man? And were I done playing basketball in April because I tweaked my pinky toe? I may at some point in the next 3 months pick up a basketball and shoot it at a basketball hoop. Now, that would just be me. I would think I didn't shoot well this year. They're expecting a lot of me. I need to be reliable. Let's get some shots up, yeah? Just go to the gym. Just some form shots, some free throws. Work out to the elbow. Maybe take a 3 or 2. That's how I would approach it. Now, Anthony Davis, I think better known now for his primary job, which is Twitch streamer, part-time NBA player, has not touched basketball since April 5th. Thought that was cool. Decided to brag about that on YouTube, so that was fun. Meanwhile, I'm seeing videos of LeBron in the gym with Kevin Love already just getting thousands of shots up because LeBron also had a terrible year. He only averaged 30 on 52% shooting. God forbid he not shoot a basketball. So relying on that man to push me back towards contention, not great. That being said, that man somehow still shits himself into being a top 10, top 12 NBA player when he's healthy, despite all that crap I just spewed about him. If you have a healthy LeBron James and healthy Anthony Davis, which is a massive if, let's say you get 55 games out of those two combined, best case, Anthony Davis plays 62, LeBron plays 67 for the season.
That's so optimistic.
That's pretty optimistic. And that's not even good. And that's optimistic, right? Like that's the point we're at with them. By the way, sidebar, Sam, I feel really bad about throwing that shot in after. That was so uncalled for.
Okay.
I was just all worked up. Anyway.
I'll remember it next time.
You're better on the
Take it personally.
pick up court than Anthony Davis is on the NBA hardwood for reference. We'll just okay. Anyway,
we have him and I have the same number of wins this playoffs, so
that is true. I think you may have more.
Played.
You were putting the work in on King Jammer and the.
I was putting the work in on King Jammer.
Yeah,
King Jammer is on an 8-game losing skid, so he's got to figure it out.
That's not great.
He doesn't know anything about the post game. Got to watch some McHale videos, Ben Poston.
Yeah.
At King Jammer underscore on Twitter. All of our listeners should just flood Ben's Twitter with get some work in the post, young fella. All right,
We're shockingly off topic for a Lakers segment. That never happens. Andrew, to your point, you hope you get, or to your question, how do you actually fix them? All jokes aside, anything you can do to trade Russ. I don't get the holding on to the pick that's an 8th grader right now. I really don't. I guess the argument would be that if you make that move, you're still mediocre, yada, yada. But if you have LeBron James and in his prime Anthony Davis, whether or not he's healthy, I think you have to go for it. So hopefully they can try to find a trade partner for Russ. If they couldn't, I would buy him out. I've said this to you guys since like February. No Russ is better. Like no return for Russ is better than Russ coming back. It's a net negative to have him on the court. So get him out of there. You have LeBron and AD. I do think bringing none back is a bonus. Malik Monk apparently wants to take less money, which God bless him, man. God bless him, because I don't know why you would take a pay cut to play for this team. But I do think he played well for them last year. He shot the ball well. He's a young athletic wing, which the Lakers don't have, so that's cool. I guess you hope THT actually takes this phantom leap that we've been predicting for 3 years, which he won't. So the alternative is hoping he turns into a functional NBA D&3 guy, which he won't either because he can't shoot. So hopefully he can just play defense if we get Andre Roberson 2.0. So you have that group of 5, which is just a real winning group. And then you have $6 million to go and attract some of the biggest names in the sport, like Kyrie Irving, who is no longer on the market. From there, hopefully we're not bringing back 80-year-old Carmelo Anthony and Dwight Howard anymore. That would be good.
Hey, Dwight Howard's really good.
Guys,
I'd love to have Dwight Howard on the Celtics.
My favorite part of the offseason last year was the Lakers won a championship with a bunch of old heads. We're like, let's get younger. Gets rid of them. And they're like, that didn't work. Let's go back to them now 2 years older and they're all bad. So stay away from that strategy might help. I looked at the list. There's only a couple guys they could potentially grab. They no longer have, and this has been a staple of LeBron James teams forever, the ability to say, come to us, chance to win a ring. Poor Kent Bazemore turned down more money from Golden State to win a ring in LA.
When you said we're taking a pay cut to go to LA, the first guy I thought it was Kent Bazemore. Went to LA to have more playing time and to get a ring. He got benched on the Lakers, who have nobody, and didn't come close to sniffing a ring.
Remember once upon a time when someone paid him $70 million to play basketball? That actually happened.
Oh my God.
That summer actually happened. Yeah. So the Lakers are in a tricky spot. Now, I fully expect, as a Lakers fan, them to win a championship because that's my expectation every year. But boy, do they have a long way to go to even get into like a playoff seed that gives them a chance to compete for like the conference finals. It's a tough situation. You hire a former agent to be your GM. You run it like a mom and pop. You bring in some of the most idiotic old head basketball figures in the sport. I will say this on our podcast and stand by it till my grave. I know more about modern day NBA basketball than Phil Jackson. You cannot convince me I cannot do a better job sitting in a front office than Phil Jackson does. Because it's the Russell Westbrook thing. I could just not do anything. I could do a George Costanza and just twiddle my thumbs, take a nap under my desk, do whatever, not work. And I would be more beneficial to my team than Phil Jackson is when he is involved. So Jeannie Buss is whatever as an owner, not great. Front office is a shit show. I do like the Darvin Ham coach hire. I actually legitimately think that was a big time hire. They got a good candidate. They got the mold of candidate that's been succeeding recently.
Yep.
The way Ime did, the way Willie Green did in New Orleans. So some positives here or there, but I think the way they're being run and the situation they're in this year is pretty tough. The saving grace is going to have to be you have the GOAT, you have one of the better players in the league right now, and you hope you can shit around and build enough of a team that those guys can push you late into the season, and then you get some breaks and you go from there. But I wish I had a plan. I tried to make one today. Turns out it's not enough of a mess that I couldn't solve it in my 5-minute lunch break. But there's the State of the Union on the Lakers. God, I hate Phil Jackson. If I could just like stand in front of any human I'm aware of on the planet and just smack him like with everything I had, it would be Phil Jackson.
Oh, we got breaking news.
Oh my God.
I say that lightly. I say that really lightly.
Please get me away from this topic.
The Knicks are trading center Nerlens Noel and Alec Burks to the Pistons, sources tell ESPN. This is from Woj, by the way. The Knicks will unload $19 million more in salary, clearing the way for cap space to try and sign. It's not. They don't know yet. They haven't talked to him yet. It would be illegal to. Of course, they wouldn't do it. To try and sign Jalen Brunson.
That, I believe, gives them enough space to pursue Brunson and another person, which, did you guys see the rumors around the league today that Dejounte Murray may be getting looked at by NYC?
Let's talk about Dejounte Murray.
NYK.
I heard there was a mystery team involved that offered 3 first-round picks it wasn't the Hawks.
That would be your Boston Celtics, probably.
That's what I saw on the old Twitter feed.
Have you heard Ime Udoka talk about Derek White?
It's the same way that Daryl Morey talks about James Harden.
It's the same way that like Bill Belichick talks about long snappers. And I feel like Dejounte Murray is just Derek White to the max.
He's like Magic Johnson, Derek White.
We've talked. Dejounte Murray is like he's the dream. I said this to Sam back in like December because we were trying to come up with like trade targets for the Celtics. And I was like, Dejounte Murray's the guy.
He is the guy. He's the ultimate guy.
Now,
like, lock it in Boston Celtics championship next year if Dejounte Murray goes to Boston.
No, the rumors for Dejounte Murray, there was the Hawks. Now, with the Hawks somehow not giving up John Collins, which never made any sense. But I don't understand that fit, him and Dejounte Murray and Trae Young.
Unless he's back on the old PEDs and they know something that we don't.
It's true.
Once a user, always a user.
DeJounte in New York would be interesting because it would be New York making a smart trade or making a trade for a player that's actually good, which would be interesting for a change. But they're not going to I don't think they would give up 3 first-round picks. By the way, first of all, Mike.
Can I say something?
Please.
So the 3 first-round picks they could potentially give up be required during their stellar draft night, which, have you guys looked at them? They're the 3 most protected picks I've ever seen in my life.
It's bad.
All of them are all but guaranteed to become second-round picks.
Yeah. And
they traded like the 11th pick and like a few players for 3 first-round picks that will never be selected.
Yep.
But, okay, they land you Dejounte Murray, it works out, but God, the Spurs have to be uncharacteristic. Stupid.
It was the ultimate GM job preservation trade. was like, look, I have these 3 first-round picks that I totally have that are totally going to be first-round picks. You can't fire me. I'm preparing well for the future.
I mean, let's be honest. James Dolan wouldn't know a first-round pick that will become a second-round pick from like a shoe on the side of the road. So,
dude, James Dolan hasn't seen his feet in years.
but
Sorry,
I agree.
that was a very body positive, guys.
We're not body shaming here, man. We already had to delete your freaking comments last week.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't either. It disappeared.
The takeaway from me with the whole Dejounte Murray thing, as Mike said, it's like, why are the Spurs doing this? Like,
it's because they're tanking for Vic.
Right?
That's what I was gonna say. Like, they're tanking, but I guess they're tanking.
Here's the thing,
like,
because
would you be taking? Sorry, Sam. Go ahead.
You're not gonna. I don't like it. For the record, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I never agree with trading away your best player just because the timing's not right. But that's the reason why they will probably do it, is because they're like, we're never going to win a championship with this iteration of the team. So we might as well at least get something back for Dejounte Murray. They're probably a little scared of the Kawhi Leonard situation, right? That's in the backs of their minds. And then what they traded Kawhi Leonard for ended up leaving in free agency. So they're probably a little nervous on that end, and I don't blame them for it. But I'd love to see Victor Wembanyama show up with Pop to start the 2023 season. So,
correct me if I'm wrong. He was a first-round pick, right?
Dejounte Murray?
Back in first round.
Yeah, back in first round. So he has the player. I think they already picked up his option, but he should be a restricted free agent when it comes up, right?
Yeah.
And then Sam, to the Kawhi Leonard point, I think that was a little bit more of a case of like almost a Kyrie Irving syndrome, where he just had a weird dude in a weird situation. He just wanted out and couldn't change his mind. I don't think the culture and place of San Antonio is toxic in any way.
Oh no, not at all.
My case
is the opposite.
My case for not trading young guys like this is like, I mean, tell me if I'm a little bit off with this, but I don't care about the timing too much. If the dude's 24, I got about a 7-year window to figure something out with him. As long as he's happy and he's willing to stay, which by all accounts, he's not asking out. What are you going to do with the draft picks? You're going to hope and pray and probably not find another Dejounte Murray. Like, that's the whole point of tanking, is to draft good young players, keep them around, and then build a good team around them. So you get your franchise point guard, who damn near almost averaged a triple-double this year.
Mm-hmm.
Finally had his breakout season. You're like, he's a couple years too early. He's 24. When we're ready, he might be 31, since players are falling off like that now. Let's trade him. He doesn't fit our time. That makes no sense to me. He's literally the block you've been looking for since Duncan left or Kawhi left. You finally get him, and you're like, let's trade him for 3 of the most protected first-round picks in human history.
If he doesn't fit the timeline, then they're not coming close to contending in like the next 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, like there's no timeline.
Like you talk about that when you look at like the Wizards with Bradley Beal. It's like at a certain point you got to do something. Like you're going nowhere. Or I think at certain times you looked at Portland with just Dame, right? And it's like, well, this isn't working. And at a certain point, we got to start building for the future if we can't win with you on the team now. It's currently constructed. It doesn't make sense to me why they would look to trade.
Those guys are 29 and 30. So you have another 4 or 5 years with Murray to potentially find another Kawhi Leonard in the middle of the first round or make some trades. LaMarcus Aldridge once upon a time came to you. A player like that would be a huge fit.
So all your draft picks if you want to go and make a move for a guy.
All right, gents, I have a question.
Okay.
And Andrew, did you say you also have a segment for us today?
I was going to do a segment where I just came up with the most ludicrous narratives based off of what could possibly happen in Brooklyn. But because it's just not going to happen, it's not even like I stopped thinking about it.
What do you mean? Kyrie Irving's getting traded to the Lakers in a 3-team trade involving Russell Westbrook to the Hornets.
Mike, save it for the hot take segment.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the hot take segment. My bad.
But really quickly, if Kyrie crawling back to LeBron after all these years would have been just chef's kiss. I mean, it would have been.
It would have literally been the real life version of you couldn't live with your own failure. So where did that bring you? Back to me.
Do the Thunder give me a percentage chance that in the next 2 or 3 years, probably the next 18 months, realistically, the Thunder trade SGA because he, and I quote, doesn't fit with their timeline?
Like 50-50.
Because he's like legitimately 6 years older than the guys that they currently have.
I mean, he's 23.
I know, he's wicked young still.
He's 23?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, why? What's the point?
I see.
But-
I don't see this one happening. Actually, now that I think about it, because they already have the draft picks. Like they don't.
Yeah, well, you
Like-
don't get any more of those.
They don't. Yeah. Like that's because that's what you'd be trading him for. Now, if you talk about trading him because all of a sudden some star becomes available and you're ready to win now, okay, like fine, we can talk about that. But
He's also the guy that enables them to be comfortable drafting a player like Chet Holmgren,
Or
who is
Poku.
not throw the ball to on the perimeter and go get a bucket guy, because SGA can run offense and get a lot of these guys good looks and help develop the other younger guys you're bringing in. I don't think that makes sense. I think he's almost a perfect piece for where they're at.
yeah,
Doesn't end up working out. He's a guy everyone in the league is going to want, so you can move him at a later date. But I mean, I would give it a low percentage, having not knowing about any rumblings about it actually happening, just based on if it makes sense or not. I would say no way.
That's
It just
true.
doesn't make any sense.
Oh, no, it doesn't make sense.
doesn't
But
make
do you
sense.
think
My-
it sounds like
my gut reaction was like 50-50 because it feels like on that entire roster, I'm like trying to find the guys they're actually trying to build around and keep. I'm like, I can't actually figure it out. Like if they wanted to, like they could keep Lou Dort on like good role player money for like 5 years. But I don't think they're going to.
what would have been hilarious is if Kyrie crawled his way back to LeBron, and then the Nets started shopping KD, and they traded him for SGA, and KD had to crawl his way back to Oklahoma City.
See, like these were the types of fun things I was talking about until stupid Kyrie took the money. I mean, real brave of you, Kyrie.
Do we want to do hot takes, or do we have anything else to add?
Before we do hot takes, I had a realization. As Mike was talking about the Lakers, I realized I can name 10 teams in the West that are likely, as currently constructed, as all teams are currently constructed, likely to have a better record than the Los Angeles Lakers next season.
Go.
Warriors, Mavs, Grizzlies, Clippers, Suns, Timberwolves, Pelicans, Nuggets, Blazers.
Oh, come on.
Oh, yes.
The Blazers, dude.
Dame is going to play. They have Anthony Simons. They brought in Jeremy Grant. And
Nasir
then-
Little, Shaden Sharp.
Oh, who was the other team I had?
Who's 10?
I promised you I had a team. Give me a second. I got to look up the team.
There's still a playing spot.
No, there's not. Give me 1 second here. Oh yeah, Utah Jazz, because they're not going to move Gobert and Donovan Mitchell.
It's a shame, Mike. That's a real shame.
Like Portland's the only one I'm on like the fence there about, but then I'm like, no, they're just a more sound operation.
All right. Can I just say one thing in defense of the Lakers?
You have 30 seconds.
Can we just acknowledge everything and then everything beyond everything that we ever could have imagined going wrong with that team went wrong last year? Like, to the extent that we're not going to expect certain teams to reach, like, we think Phoenix has reached their ceiling. I don't think LA has much more of a floor. And I really think that if you have LeBron and Anthony Davis on the court, they're going to win enough games to get themselves to games beyond the regular season, whether it be playing, whether it be playoffs. But even with Russell Westbrook, I think if there's just some semblance of health, and if that's your argument, so be it. That's been the history of the last couple of years. Fine. But that was absolutely the worst case scenario of what could have happened. I expect them to regress to the mean in an upwards fashion. And you're right, Andrew. The West is stupidly stacked. That was a great list of teams. But I do think LeBron and Anthony Davis figure out a way to get them up into the lower echelon of that group, at least in the play-in tournament. More than likely, I think a 7 or an 8 seed. But we'll see. You're not off pace with any of those teams.
To be fair, I'll give LeBron the benefit of the doubt But like I'm looking at those teams, and it's like if you just asked me like gut reaction, like and you gave me those teams, like who has a better record next year, I would give you the other teams. Yet at the same time, I also can't imagine a LeBron James team missing the playoffs again. I couldn't imagine it the first time.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do some hot takes.
All right. So I was thinking for organization, we go around, we take turns until we run out. And after you say yours, the other two either buy or sell.
Oh,
okay.
Wait, so can I the Lakers winning the championship is just an established one that neither of you will buy, so we're just going to bypass that for this conversation,
Yes.
even though it's totally going to happen.
Like, would you like to go to start it, or?
No, I got to think of another one. I've been all in.
All right, I can go. We'll go me, Andrew, Mike, and then we'll just keep going.
All right.
Luka Doncic MVP, lock it in.
Oh, so including next season?
Yeah. Next.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Detroit Pistons.
Well, we got to buy or sell, right?
Oh, buy or sell?
I'm all in, baby. Buying that shit up. I think this is finally the year that he takes the off season seriously, doesn't have a slow start, and ends up keeping it all the way through and winning it.
I'll buy it, but I think the MVP of the NBA next year. You want a hot take? And I don't truly necessarily believe in it, but I'll give you LeBron James. The Lakers, if the Lakers skyrocket,
I buy that even more.
And he does what he did last year. If he puts up the numbers he did last year,
that's really good.
And they're a playoff team, like a legit playoff. Let's say even mid 4 or 5 seed. LeBron James.
I'll buy that.
You know what? I'm buying it. Sorry, Luka. Large adult Slovenian cousin. You'll have your time. Hot take for next year. Phoenix doesn't get past round 1. I don't know how hot that is, but it is still a fairly well-constructed roster. I think mentally they're shot. They're going to start physically breaking down. Devin Booker has a word and words I can't say on the podcast, but Phoenix brutally underperforms to the extent of not making out. Now, I think they make the playoffs at a comfortable seed because they're a good team, and then probably get upset in the first round would be the hot take. They don't just not make it out, they get upset.
Interesting. I buy that they don't get past the first round. We'll get to some future hot takes and explain why they will not be a home team in the first round.
I think the Pelicans are going to be the most fun team to watch next year.
I was going to say I think the Pelicans are a top 4 seed next year.
Ooh. I'm selling the top 4. I don't hate the confidence in the Pelicans. I too am high on them, but the Zion injury thing still scares me a little bit. I don't know that they're quite mature enough to sustain that over the course of the regular season. I think it's more likely they get in more on the back end and they put a real scare on somebody in the postseason, and you kind of see what they could have been had they sustained it.
I think they're a very fun team. I think they're all in on the Pelicans next year. Okay, so I guess it's Mike's turn now, right?
I think I'm not ready.
All right, I got another one.
All right, I'll come up with a couple of them.
Another team that's going to be really fun, and they're not going to make the playoffs this year, but they're going to be right. They might make a play-in run, but they'll be firmly in the playoffs the next year. The Detroit Pistons. Fantastic draft. Jaden Ivey, Duren, Cade is already there. Sadiq Bey. They have Kelly Olynyk. They're lock them in.
Who's the guy that tried to kill LeBron?
Isaiah Stewart, of course. I couldn't believe, when I was seeing this, I couldn't believe that it was actually this season. It felt so long ago. That was iconic, though.
All right, I got one for you guys.
All right.
I'll buy that in.
The Warriors don't make the conference finals next year. I think LA, of course, the Lakers, right? Of course. The Clippers, I think, are going to be there around the end of the season. And I think Denver's going to be a pretty feisty team. So
I'll buy it.
I don't think I think somebody gets them a round earlier than expected. And also, I don't actually think they're that good, even though they just won the NBA championship.
I think they're good. I think the issue for them is they're going to lose some key role pieces. And then Draymond's just a shell of himself at this point. Clay, we'll see. They would need much higher level play from. They'll need like finals Wiggins consistently, I think, to get back there.
That's fair.
I don't think so, because Clay's finally going to have an offseason where he's actually healthy and he can kind of like get back into it. Because before his time away from basketball has been rehabbing his leg. So I don't think it's fair to write off Klay Thompson just yet.
I'm not ready.
I understand that
Yeah.
Draymond showed himself for them.
I also think it has less to do with the Warriors declining, and we're like, I'm not sure the Warriors have another gear they can get to, whereas I see some other teams that could really take another.
That's a very good way to put it. And then the other thing I was thinking too is, we'll see how the next year plays out. Steph is still firmly above Jokic for me, obviously, but there's a real possibility we get into the playoffs next year, and there are 3 teams in the West, not counting the Lakers, were they to make some sort of move. 3 teams that we really expect to be there based on the last season and what's coming back, where Steph's not the best player, where the Warriors don't have the best player on the court. And that for me would easily be the Clippers and the Mavs. I think if healthy, both have the best player on the court. And then potentially Denver, especially if he were to get his reinforcements back. Potentially you no longer have that advantage of having the best player in the series. I don't know that the rest of the team is going to be able to repeat what they just pulled off in the West.
I have 2 more. I'll do the first one now. Rob Williams decoy.
Buy it because he's going to be the most impactful defender on the best defense in the league. So that automatically puts him right in the running.
So you're not giving it to the same team twice in a row. It's going to be Giannis, Bam, or Rudy.
Robert.
Robert.
All right, I'm up.
Yep.
Now I'll admit, I don't totally buy this one, but it's a bold prediction. Somehow, some way, Bradley Beal will end up on the Boston Celtics next year, and it won't take Brown, Tatum, or Rob Williams to get him, or Marcus Smart for that matter.
What's it going to take, dude? You got to give him something.
So it would take a Bradley Beal power play, but like because they could get it done money wise with Horford, Derek White, and patched together.
I'm not trading Horford for Bradley Beal.
I'm just saying it's a bold prediction.
Wait, Sam, say that again.
I mean, fit with this team. Maybe Horford.
Yeah. You would not.
I would not. The last thing the Celtics need is another ball stopper that's going to take his own shot.
I never said whether it was a good or bad move for either team. I just said it's a bold prediction.
I'm going to say
Bradley Beal isn't exactly a ball stopper.
No, he's not. He's really good at scoring off ball.
He's more of he can literally fit with any team in the league and give you 28 a night. And Horford's 36.
Okay. So maybe I'm wrong. I just love Al Horford. I don't want to see him grow.
That's fair.
Me neither.
I'm going to sell it only because it's too obvious. It's like one of those where it's almost been like we've heard about it every offseason for the last 3.5 years.
The difference is it's the least likely it's ever been this year.
Ooh, I like that. It's never the person you least suspect or the person you most suspect. It's the person you medium suspect.
Exactly. All of a sudden, he opts out and signs a max contract with the Wizards is what people are expecting. Not so fast.
I got one you guys are going to love. It's a 2-parter. Ben Simmons is first team all defense. And the Nets make the conference finals and lose to the Bucks next year.
I'll buy the first, sell the second.
Sell and sell. But here's the issue with Ben Simmons right now.
He could be decoy, honestly.
The dude has not played basketball in a year. And the last time you saw him play basketball, he was an absolute puddle.
Guys, the scenes if he wins defensive
Andrew.
Most improved.
Andrew.
Yep.
Offensively and mentally, yes. He wiped Trae Young out of Game 7 when Trae was on one of the better hot streaks we've seen recently. Took him out of the game. He scored 18 points, shot horribly. So I don't think that defensively, which is the easier of the two sides of the ball to reacclimate to. I don't see him taking a step back. Now, you want to argue offensively, can't shoot, whatever, fine. But defensively, doesn't take a whole lot of mental toughness to D up. No one's like, oh man, let's watch Ben Simmons screw up on defense. And he is literally just physically a dominant defender. So I think the more likely of the two, honestly, may be that first one. But to the second bold prediction, that's the type of thing this Brooklyn team could sneak around and do based on the talent if things broke their way. So we'll see. But those are very bold.
Yeah, I also just think that Brooklyn's such a mess. Like if he was in another situation, I might give you that one.
Okay, that's fair.
But he's just in the whole team's a mess. Kyrie, they're not changing their coach. Like I'm just so down on that team. And like while also acknowledging, yeah, like sure, like the talent, you put it together, of course, they can contend, but
fair enough.
I just can't trust it.
I got one more.
All right.
Tibbs doesn't make it to the trade deadline.
Ooh.
I think he leads the league in first coach fired chances. I think.
I'll buy it because if they're not playing well, they're going to. But I also think they've made some good moves so far in the offseason. You know, they traded away their draft picks for future bad draft picks. They're still committed money to Julius Randle. I mean, they're getting rid of all the guys that can actually play. So I don't know what it is about them that has me believing in them. No, I'm kidding. I buy it. I don't think they're going to be a good team.
Selling all aboard the Jalen Brunson train.
Like, you know what the best way this could go is? The best way this could go is Jalen Brunson comes, freaking goes all Kyrie Irving, sabotages the team, and just insists his dad be named head coach.
That would be fantastic. I would love that.
I would love that too.
The Jalen Brunson, 27 point per game guy who hit one of the biggest shots in NBA history. So little sticking points, but not much.
I think that's what Devin Booker wants to do with Monty Williams, but he's not allowed to.
So I got one more take. I don't know how hot it is, but Jaden Ivey's the best player out of this draft class. A week ago, I would not have said that. I think he landed in the perfect situation for him. I don't think he's going to be the best player on his team, but I don't love the draft class. I think him and Kate are an incredible fit. And honestly, Jabari, who would have been my pick, I hate the fit in Houston. I freaking hate it. As a guy who likes Jabari, roots for Auburn, I was kind of devastated to see him land in Houston. I think it's a brutal fit for him. Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. are like the two worst guards you could ask for if you're trying to develop with a stretch four. Like, they're volume shooters who have higher turnover. It feels like they turn the ball over more than they assist. I don't actually watch the Rockets play, but hate the fit for him. Holgram, I don't really buy into. The Ivy pick next to Kate, I think, is fantastic. So, Andre, I believe you're high on Ivy too, but.
Bye. I was going to come up with this. I was going to say this for myself.
Oh,
took it from me. You went out of order and you took it.
That's on me. My bad.
It's all right. I'll come up with another one. Absolutely buy.
I'm out.
Oh.
I buy that, by the way, but I don't have any more.
Today on Twitter, I saw a tweet that the Philadelphia 76ers are considering bringing back the Allen Iverson jerseys as an alternate.
Oh.
I did see that.
Now, I'm not
what?
Go ahead.
No. I want to hear what you have to say.
No, I don't like Philly. I don't like the Philadelphia 76ers with Allen Iverson. Love those jerseys. It's the James Harden redemption year. Friend of the show, James Harden, is going to see a return to form. He is going to be starting the All-Star game at point guard for the Eastern Conference. And the Sixers are still, let's be clear, they're still going to lose in the second round. Like, let's get that out of the way. But James Harden's going to play really good basketball this year. And the Sixers, they're not going to regret not giving him a long-term extension just because of age alone. But the money he's being paid won't look bad. And this is coming from a guy who's never been a James Harden fan. Like, I've always liked him, but like the arm hook, the nonsense with the fouls has always really bugged me. But it's the James Harden redemption year.
Guys, those 3 days when we were James Harden's biggest fans were probably the most fun I've ever had watching basketball.
And you can have it all next year.
It doesn't have to end. James Harden, friend of the show. Let's do it, Andrew. Let's ride.
You know what? Screw it. He's our guy.
Bye.
Bye.
Go. Let's go.
I feel like that's a perfect place to wrap the segment up. Is some James Harden.
I agree. Friend of the show.
Beautiful.
Right. Is it time, Sam?
Sam, would you have any interest in sending us off?
I could send us off with some positivity because Sam Posman is now
positive Posman.
Positive Posman. Let's rewind 18 months, maybe 24 months. The Texas Longhorns. Sam Allender's leaving. It's Hudson Card or Casey Thompson was the other quarterback. We convinced ourselves they're both the second coming of Vince Young. Turns out they were just very not good quarterbacks. That's one Dutchman of my 3 Dutchmen of my sports love. Let's go to the second one. We've got Arsenal. Mesut Ozil is looking. It's all going to hell. They're letting him leave on a free. It's right after the Henrik Mkhitaryan, Alexis Sanchez disaster. Hopeless. You look at the Boston Celtics, they're a 500 team. It really feels like Jason Tatum doesn't know how to pass the basketball. Marcus Smart is the biggest ego in the world. Danny Tice is Danny Tice. It was the pits. In 18 months, the turns have tabled. Absolutely tabled. Let's look at Texas. They just got a commitment from the 2. There are 3 high school football players who have perfect scouting ratings. It's 1.000. It was Vince Young, it was Quinn Ewers, and now it's Arch Manning. And the Texas Longhorns got all 3. And we're going to get 2 more national championships out of it. We already have like 3 guys in the top 100 for 2023, and only 18 have committed to schools. It's crazy. Texas is chilling. We've got Coach Sark. He's sober. He's got a new wife. She's fantastic. We've got just ask Mike. Really, just ask Mike. It's all going great. Just got a new signing from a 5-star safety. We're chilling. Oklahoma's in shambles. They've never been this irrelevant since I don't know, when we started exploring West. That was the most recent time they've been this irrelevant. It's fantastic. So the stars are lining for Texas. We go to Boston. They go from a bum team that makes you want to stop watching the sport of basketball entirely to making a finals run. Did they break my heart? But yes. But if you told me in January that we'd be in the finals, you could stab me in the eye and I'd still be happy. It's just that I'd be happy to get swept in the finals in January, let alone go to Game 6 against the best dynasty of the last 10 years. That brought me joy. And you look at Arsenal. Stan Kroenke, what a bum he was. Spent 45 million on Gabriel Jesus, another 30 on Fabio Vieira. It looks like we just submitted a $55 million bid for a defender out of Ajax. Oh my God, what a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. We're finishing top 5 in the Premier League with absolute Nuno Tavares at left back. What are we doing? We're bringing back Kieran Terry. It's going to be totally okay. The World Cup is this November. America didn't even qualify for the last one. That was 4 years ago, but now we're back. We've got the baby Jesus riding high in swaddling clothes. Oh my God. It's just great. I was at the pits of all 3 of my sports teams 18 months ago. And to think that they've all turned into just not only contenders, but favorites in their respective competitions, it actually brings me a lot of happiness.
Now I have something to add here.
And one last thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
All their rivals are absolutely shitting themselves. Oklahoma's terrible. Texas A&M is buying recruits, but that doesn't count. Arsenal's biggest rival just tried to match one of our signings, and they signed a guy with rape charges. Not great, but great looks for Arsenal, which it's controversial. But it's just guilty by association, so we're not them, so that's better. What's my other? Oh, the Celtics. 76ers are just signing fat people left and right. When was the last time you saw anyone on the 76ers in a full-out sprint? They don't run. It's a sport. I don't get how that happens. Tobias Harris has never actually sprinted in an NBA game. I'm convinced. James Harden looks like Mr. Potato Head. 8 Mrs. Potato Head.
Come on now.
Sorry, friend of the show.
Friend of the show,
He's
James
back.
Harden.
He's back.
Show some
Okay.
respect.
Andrew, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say. Now, Sam, I've shit a lot on Arsenal over the past year. You know, not a big soccer guy. If you couldn't tell, I don't know a lot about soccer. However, yesterday I saw that Arsenal had signed a new goalie. His name's Matt Turner. He's played for the New England Revolution for the past few years, and he is incredible.
And he's an American.
And I've officially passed in my Arsenal fan card for the next season. I don't know when it starts because it's soccer and none of the scheduling makes sense.
August 4th, baby.
August 4th, I am officially an Arsenal fan. I might watch the highlights of a game on 2x speed.
I actually do have something for you. Early August, something else is coming out. It's the Arsenal All or Nothing show. And it is so full of drama. You're gonna it's so good. Because Arsenal start
Sam, just
Mike.
quit while you're ahead. He's joining the group for the season.
Okay. I'm in, Andrew. Let's go.
Don't hard
Let's
sell.
go.
Is there an Arsenal chant I should be aware of?
Well, the most recent one was about how Mikel Arteta was going to lead us back to the Champions League, but that didn't happen. So no.
All right, Sam.
Right.
So first off, I need to announce to the world, our whole 47 viewership world, that
That's like 40 more than 7.
Sam and I have made another wager. The last one included Sam rooting against his own interest when he picked the Warriors over the field in November. I lost. Consequence is a lunch. Now, Sam ended up rooting against his own bet. I have been somewhat of a notorious Texas detractor since Sam and I became friends because one of your best friends is a Texas fan. Why would you not crap all over Texas? It's just low-hanging fruit. My dear younger sister is now attending Texas. So starting at kickoff this year, I will become a Texas Longhorn fan. So Arch Manning news is great. We're basically going to be best friends by association here at some point in the next 4 years. That being said, before I enter into such fandom, Sam and I have made another wager. Oklahoma will have a better record in FBS football than Texas this year. The stakes are the same. Now, I will be rooting against my own interest at some point. But worked for Sam. It's going to work for me. Enjoy your time in the sun in a couple of years, Sam, but it's still raining this year. Oklahoma's going to, I don't know, they're going to rule the division. That division's a shit show. No one cares, but they're going to be better than Texas. Texas still stinks. Horns down. Last time I say it. One other point while I'm being all negative after your great little soliloquy about how everything's blooming for you.
Thank you very much. And all my teams are young.
Is anyone interested in my last 24 months of sports?
I don't know, man. It might be too depressing to end the show with.
Dude, we've never seen a crash this bad since 29.
So the Lakers have maybe the biggest meltdown in NBA history. 2 years ago, I was riding high. LeBron had established himself as the GOAT. They were coming off a title. Anthony Davis was taking the next step. Didn't play out. Now, two years ago, I wasn't quite in a different position, but this last year has driven the pain deeper. Auburn's been terrible for a couple of years. My beloved college football organization. An unranked Auburn team, terrible. I think they were 6-6, 7-5. They play number 1 ranked Alabama this year. In the Iron Bowl, the biggest game of the year. Literally, Auburn can go 0-11 if they beat Alabama. I don't care. They are seconds away from winning the Iron Bowl in one of the greatest upsets in college football history by a mile. And their star running back runs out of bounds trying to run out the clock. Bryce Young has a heroic comeback, and they lose. Freaking alternating 2-point conversions. What idiot installed that? So that was bad. Then my beloved adopted NFL organization had one of the worst postseason collapses I have witnessed in my time, when the Chiefs blew a 21-3 lead to the Bengals, and I had to suffer through the insufferable Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty bullshit for 2 weeks.
They were up 21-3.
Yes, they're up 21-3 with a chance to extend the lead going into half.
They were at the 1 yard line, up 21-3, and they lost. We're not going to talk.
Tom Brady's not losing that game.
No, I mentioned they were my adopted NFL.
Chad Henne's not losing that game.
They were
Nick
adopted.
Foles isn't losing that game.
Hey, I squalor in my misery.
Sorry.
Hey, at least the Giants are keeping their best receiving options.
Well, I was going to talk about the Giants. The reason the Chiefs have become the adopted team is because I am an actual fan of maybe the most dysfunctional organization in sports, who, despite having a little sunshine, broke through this offseason. The highlight of the Giants season last year was running a QB sneak on 3rd and 9 from their own 1 with Jake Fromm under center. I don't even think you guys know this. I don't think I've ever hated an athlete more than Jake Fromm.
No, you've talked about this.
Like putrid hatred. Like, he's right behind Phil Jackson, the guys that like to slap. I hate him.
Isn't he really racist?
Yeah. And he couldn't beat Alabama in a national championship. So that, of course, means I hate him with all my heart, even though he was a college freshman. Anyway, they stink. Now, a little bit of sunshine years, the Yankees are the best team in baseball. But in the last year, they did lose to the Red Sox in the wild card, which is about as bad an outcome as that season could have had.
They also got killed in the wild
years.
card.
Shut up, Andrew. Which I had to watch with Boston fans for the first time, which was also awful. And in the previous couple of years, they lost to the cheating bastards in Houston. So I was atop the mountain. Not that long ago. As Sam has risen, I have fallen. Andrew's just chilling in the middle, being an asshole Patriots and Celtics fan. I would almost liken it to a certain Seinfeld episode.
That's what I was going to say.
Where Elaine is on top, George is on bottom, and Jerry always breaks even. And they do the old flippity flop. Right now, I am Elaine in that situation. Sam, this may be the only time it's a good comparison, is Mr. George Costanza riding high. I really took the air out of my sails, but it's important I acknowledge where I'm at. Please keep me in your thoughts and prayers.
T's and P's.
Thanks, guys. I don't really have anything to add. It's just a tough time.
Me neither.
I literally even spent the whole playoffs rooting against the Celtics until I flipped to root for them, and that's when they lost. Like, why? Sidebar, that might be why they lost, but
Yeah.
I think I said that last episode.
That might be me.
All right. Guess we got to wrap it up there.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go eat deer meat that I didn't kill because I suck at that too.
Okay, well, this has turned into a conversation about, is Mike okay?
Guys, I swear.
Pick that up next time. That's a tease for you. That's a tease.
Mike, do we need to send flowers?
No, I've caught a lot of fish this summer. It's okay. Hanging on.
All right. As Mike goes on a mental health journey over the next few weeks, and Sam goes to France.
Me and Ben Simmons, baby.
And I go back to orthopedic surgeon, whatever it is, to check out my wisdom teeth tomorrow.
Is it possible to put up a poll on Instagram whether or not you should keep the beard?
The beard. Now none of you guys can see this.
What if the beard stayed through the France trip?
Ooh, I like this.
The beard is going to be gone tomorrow morning.
Damn it!
I'll do a France trip special for Sam Send Off by Sam if you keep the beard intro.
We could get an entire breakdown of the France trip.
You're telling me he's not going to do an entire breakdown if I shave the beard?
I was, but now that I know the beard's at stakes, I have all the leverage.
This is Mike's fault. This is Mike's fault.
This is on me. I thought it looked good.
I thought it looked great.
Sam, I still don't think you can grow one. I might be willing to throw another wager down to see.
I you know what I bet?
See what that was.
I bet if I shaved mine in a week, and then didn't shave until he got back from his trip, I would have more of a beard.
Is there a chance that we forgot to actually end the podcast now? We're just talking about it.
Oh no!
This is part of the pod. This is the end.
Oh yeah, we had to bring it up
facial hair talk
after my my public grieving.
No, I now work in the workforce, so I can't just be like hoodlummy. So I kind of have to.
You work in the workforce? Where else would you work?
Anyway, I have to look presentable for my esteemed colleagues at the Portland Press Herald, and as a part of the media, I cannot look raggedy.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm just a guy who's been sitting on his couch, icing his face, watching New Girl, and playing MLB The Show for a week. That's how the beard has come.
Hey, new F122 comes out July 1.
No one cares.
New regulations, baby. Those are following. Better overtaking.
You know, I might have to go back to like Mario Kart DS on June 1st instead. But we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be back mid-July. Right? Mid-July.
Unless we do a Courtside Abroad special.
we might do a Courtside Abroad special.
Andrew and I might actually do our duo episode we talked about.
But Courtside will be back, as always. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like, subscribe wherever you're listening, download the podcast, share it with your friends. It'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks so much, guys. We'll be back.